FujiFilm GFX 50S2 review. Fujifilm's upgrade to its relatively affordable 50MP GFX camera doesn't look very impressive on paper. No 4K video, only 3 FPS continuous shooting speed, but some significant changes both inside and out have made this the first 50MP stabilized shooter from Fujifilm, with the cheapest price tag for a medium format camera. Along with its impeccable image quality, it's easy to fall in love with this camera. The Fujifilm GFX 50S2 might look very different from its predecessor, but it inherits that same large sensor that made us fall in love with the original GFX 50R. Like the older model, the GFX 50S2 hasn't been designed for speed junkies or video. Instead, it harnesses the power of a medium format sensor, combines it with some very steady in-body image stabilization, IBIS, to then produce some stupendous stills. The sensor in the GFX 50S2 is about 1.7x bigger than a 35mm full-frame chip, meaning there's better light gathering abilities, and thus a superior low light performance and excellent dynamic range that few full-framers can match. Combined with the sharp glass of the GF lenses, it's a recipe for some remarkably good images. Fujifilm has even brought over the contrast detect autofocus from the older model over the Mark II, but the algorithms have been improved. While AF is comparatively sluggish to other modem mirrorless cameras, it has a pretty good acquisition speed as compared to older medium format cameras. At launch, Fujifilm slapped a price tag of $3,999, £3,499, £6,499 Australian dollars for the body alone. A kit bundled with the GF 35 to 70mm f/4.5 to 5.6 WR lens will also be available for $4,499, £3,899 /7,299 Australian dollars, a package that offers very good value if you're a first-time GFX user. Fujifilm has decided to stick with the same 51.4MP sensor that was used in the original GFX 50S, and that's not a bad thing. However, that also means you're still only getting contrast detect autofocus, which is slower than phase detect AF, but Fujifilm claims that upgrades to its AF algorithms have made a difference. While the GFX 50S2 gets the latest X processor 4 imaging engine, which does improve AF performance over the older model, there's still no 4K video capabilities in the Mark II. While the lack of 4K video and a meager continuous shooting speed is a little disappointing, Fujifilm has made up for it by improving the in-body image stabilization, IBIS. Thanks to the addition of the Ibis module, the GFX 50S2 can now boast a pixel shift multi-shot function. This produces 200MP images by capturing 16 raw images as the sensor shifts by 0.5 of a pixel. The final composite image isn't produced in camera though, and needs to be done in post using Fujifilm's Pixel Shift Combiner software. Physically, the original GFX 50S and the Mark II are very different. Fujifilm has used the GFX 100S body for the new GFX 50S2, giving it a more DSLR-style control layout. This would make it easy for anyone moving away from a different system to adapt to the GFX 50S2 quite quickly. Speaking of the EVF, the older GFX 50S had a removable eye-level viewfinder that could be replaced with an optional tilting EVF. Fujifilm has opted to use a different OLED panel in the Mark II that drops the magnification from the 0.85x on the GFX 50S to 0.77x in the new body. However, the quick menu button on the Mark II still sits on the ridge of the thumb rest, as in the GFX 100S, and may cause accidental presses if you aren't too careful. Like the GFX 100S body, the GFX 50S2 900 grams also sits in the hand comfortably, with a beefy grip that distributes the weight well, even when a hefty lens has been attached. Having inherited the body from the GFX 100S, the GFX 50S2 also inherits the same NPW235 battery that's rated for about 460 shots per full charge. Dual SD card slots, 3.5mm jacks for mic and headphones, a USB-C port for charging and transferring files, a mini HDMI port and a PC sync port round up the camera body. Fujifilm has harnessed the power of the X processor 4 engine, while also updating the AF algorithm, to speed things up a little. Because it still uses the same contrast detect AF as before, however, AF acquisition is a little slower as compared to the 102MP GFX cameras that have the advantage of the hybrid AF with phase detection. Face and eye detection are on board and work quite well, provided your subject is squarely facing you or at least one eye is well lit. However, eye detection works effectively only on SAF mode, and suffers a lot when trying to track in continuous shooting mode. The low burst rate, however, contributes to a lot of rolling shutter effect, where lines appear at angles, when using the electronic shutter. A battery rated at 460 shots is quite competitive for a mirrorless camera, but this number is conservative. Depending on the shooting conditions and duration, you can easily squeeze upwards of 550 shots from a single charge. What's really impressive about the GFX 50S2, though, is its image stabilization system. We were able to capture some great results at 2 seconds shutter speed at base ISO handheld with a GF 30mm f/3.5 or WR lens. It's extremely difficult to find fault with the results produced by a medium format body. Because of its slightly slower AF performance, the GFX 50S2 is going to be the remit of portrait, still life, architecture and landscape photographers. Combined with Fujifilm's excellent quality GF optics, the level of detail you get from the large sensor is very high, and tonality is sensational. The bigger photocells on the sensor means great light capturing capabilities, which in turn translates into superb low light performance and excellent dynamic range. We took a few underexposed test shots and there was a huge latitude to play with. The low light performance of the camera means noise control is also really quite good here. Even at high sensitivity like ISO 3200, noise is very well controlled, with not a trace of grain. Even images captured at ISO 6400 are clean. With Fujifilm's film simulations on board, there's plenty of in-camera creativity to play with. Colors are excellent, even in the standard preset, but you can opt for brighter colors and more saturation by using the Velvia/Vivid, which is what we used for most of our sample images. Its lack of video and speed aside, the GFX 50S2 scores big in our books on picture quality alone.